We're here, we're in Africa, one of the hardest races to put on the coast of Dakar. You name it, we've had challenges in terms of getting the race on, and also you put on top of that global pandemic. So yes, challenge has been huge, but we've got a great team here, and we're ready to go. Looking forward to racing.
The great thing about Extreme E is that it's a fantastic, exciting motorsport. But also the spectacular nature of the courses, of the circuits, the amazing locations, the landscape, and that together with the environmental message, which is so important for us to be able to hopefully bring to a wider audience who may not be watching our environmental shows, but we can inform and entertain at the same time, hopefully, which is what we're all about.
Well, I think that it's really a collaboration between Extreme E and ourselves to look at the racetrack, the camera positions, the sporting regulations, to make sure we get a really compelling racetrack for the drivers. They want to make sure they've got a great contest and a great sporting competition, and also for us we've got a really great television spectacle. And underneath all that, we want to make sure that we are showcasing why we're here, which is really to describe visually climate change as it's happening in front of our eyes. It's both exciting and a privilege to be here. I feel genuinely that we are at the vanguard of telling the story of climate change through the eyes of television. And around us here we can see all the plastic on the beach, which is a big problem. We're responsible for dumping 12 million tons of plastic into the ocean every year. And you can see it here just wash up in front of us. And it's not just from Senegal, it's from Europe. So I feel we have a great responsibility to tell the story, and at the same time we're excited to get the racing done. It starts in earnest tomorrow, and it's a fantastic track for the drivers. So we started off in Saudi Arabia in the Desert X-Prix, and that was a huge undertaking. No one had seen this before. We were all learning, and that was a really challenging track with huge rocks and sand over a 9-kilometer distance. That was first of all. Now we're coming to Senegal and the Ocean X-Prix, and this is a really, another, lovely location. Next of all, we are going to Greenland, to a place called Kandalusak, which is, obviously well known, threatened by climate change, a huge ice melt in that part of the world and affecting sea level rise. Then we are moving on to the Amazon, into Brazil, and then we finish off in Patagonia. So each of the locations has got a unique signature, but they all have one thing in common, which they're all affected by climate change in one way or another. I've done a lot of TV in my time, in 30 years, and by a distance this is the most challenging thing we've ever done. Principally because of the remoteness of the location and the tech involved in getting it all back to London and then out again. I don't think this could have been done 2 or 3 years ago, but the technology's advanced so fast, and with the group of people that we've got, I would say, if not the most challenging and remote sports production of its time, it's certainly amongst the top few.
Racing here is not new. What is new for us is the fact that the equipment is still new, the crew is new, we've got COVID restrictions that we've got to operate around, and that all makes it incredibly challenging. And if you'd seen the first race in Saudi Arabia, dust was a problem, and we're also driving on sand here. So, we are slightly nervous in terms of the impact that sand will have on a multi-car race, but, we're really confident with the tests that we've had up till date, and we're really excited about the potential and the quality of racing here.
So we've kept the carbon footprint low, but we've tried to keep the innovation really high. And I think the whole broadcast and production output is in keeping with Extreme E's position as the most, the most sophisticated and sustainable sport with a purpose on the planet.
Here in Senegal, we've tried to bring the minimum number of staff. So the teams have only got 5 engineers and mechanics, 2 drivers, 7 in a total team. And if you compare that to something like Formula One, which is 50, 60, 70 people, we've really reduced the numbers significantly, and we've done the same with our production in terms of our TV production. We've got a small number of staff on site, so between 30 and 40 depending on the race. We've got a studio back in the east of London. We've got NEP working with us in terms of the augmented reality, virtual reality, and the overlays and the graphics all coming from the Netherlands. And then we've got Alcamel from Barcelona with all the timing. So it's quite a challenge in terms of remote production, but we think it's the right way to go in terms of, we think it's the right thing for the environment, we think it's the right thing for the show, and what we hope is more sports will imitate us and ultimately become far more sustainable.
There was no template here for Extreme and no template for the sports production. We had to make it up and build it. So inevitably there is you're a bit of a bag of nerves about, will it all work, which parts need to be changed, and for race 2. But it did work, and we hope that we've got a model that's repeatable. I think with these events, it's expect the unexpected. Even yesterday we flew the drones for the first time, and the drones are a really sophisticated piece of modern kit that give an amazing aerial view of the driving and the landscape. But yesterday the drones were being buzzed by local buzzers who set their homes in the trees, were laying eggs, and the buzzers had never seen drones before, so typically, like us, they were curious as to what they were. So every venue has its uniqueness and its complications. We have the sea, the heat, the forest, the wildlife. We have to be protecting and conscious of everything around us, and then we have to really come in with a light footprint and leave as if we were never here in the first place. So I think because we have content coming in from different parts of the world in real time, it all has to come into a broadcast hub. And the broadcast hub is in London, and NEP's headquarters in London, and that's a very sophisticated ingest point. I don't think we could have done this in a normal manner. It really had to be the most modern and sophisticated way of getting all the pictures back. Everything is sent back actually via satellite. Because of the remoteness of the location, we couldn't do this on fiber. So because all these feeds are coming in real time, it's a bit like just sitting in a central place and having everything coming at you. And then we needed a very experienced production team who were very aware of those different streams coming in and being able to put them together and then master out a program in real time that was then going to different parts of the world. So you can be watching this in Buenos Aires or Miami or Copenhagen or Beijing, and all the feeds are coming into one stream and then into your living room from different parts of the world. And I think that is actually a product of the technical world we live in now. And a really big team international effort. So we took a light crew here around the world for Extreme. We didn't want a huge outside broadcast crew. That's for lots of reasons. Obviously, we're conscious of our own carbon footprint. So we doubled up the people, so the sound engineers will end up doing some engineering on other parts of the job, on vision, for example. The camera guys will lay their own track cables. The producers will end up doing some editing, and so on and so forth. So it's a crew of about 40 on site. Usually a job of this size requires up to 100, and then we've left 50 to 60 people at home. All the graphics guys are left at home, the commentators are at home, a lot of the producers at home. So we are cutting the track pictures and then sending all those signals back to London for them to master the show in London, as opposed to mastering the show on site, which just needs more boots on the ground, which is really absolutely the opposite of what we want to try and do here. These are long days, and it's a little bit like a mini marathon, not a sprint. We have to be careful that we don't burn everybody out within the first 24 hours or 48 hours of being here. Under COVID, we have to quarantine. We're taking, multiple tests. We have to be prudent about what we're doing with the staff. The heat is a factor for sure, both for the people and the kit. The sand adds another complication. In Saudi Arabia, the sand was very, very dusty, and we had to constantly be aware of the equipment. Here it's not so bad, but for sure we need to manage the equipment and the people over a long period of time and it's a very intensive week on the ground.
We've kind of pushed the boundaries technically on this project in every sense. So the technology that's deployed on site is a mixture of IP and encoded video and audio. The technology across the satellite, we've pushed to maximise that bandwidth to get as much as we can back to London. Some of the innovations in Grazing Road and the graphics have been only possible because we are now centralising all of the processing resource to create the augmented and virtual graphics that we're doing. We have gone to quite an effort to create virtual augmented worlds that are realistic and really help the storytelling. So we've taken aerial surveys of the locations we are creating, and then the teams in the Netherlands have created virtual worlds from that data, so they are realistic. There was no way we could achieve this level of program making with a team that's entirely on location in these remote, quite harsh environments.
One of the main parts of this production, which is quite new, is the marriage of sporting graphics, AR graphics and virtual graphics. Pulling those all together is a challenge in itself, but what we also have to do is they're all remote. So we have our gallery here in London, which is putting a final show together, but we're taking the live pictures from on site in Senegal. Our sporting graphics are coming from Malcolm in Barcelona. Our AR and virtual graphics are coming from NEP in Hilversum in Holland. So all these guys and women are all together trying to put this show on at the same time, and our job is to literally pull those bits of string together to make one final output. So it's quite a challenge and quite fun at the same time. There's a brilliant team, which is West, the director, and Matt, the producer on site, and they're capturing the races. Obviously, we're in live conversation with each other at the time to work out. So I know exactly what cameras West is going to cut to, but then on top of that, I can augment those pictures, if you like, by adding in the sporting graphics, which is the driver names and times, and also we can add in the augmented reality, which is a great part of our production here. So there's several layers of that. We have drones which have icons for all the circuit layouts, the gates, the topography. We can start, the finish, the switch zone where they have the driver change. And then we have pointers, or HIT we call them, which is where we can track the cars with a graphic around it and then put some data telemetry around the car so it can show live what it's doing and also following the car through the screen. And then a really cool thing we've got is the virtual map, which is literally a virtual environment exactly of the location, and we can use that, and that tracks the cars within that virtual environment, and we can use that to illustrate to viewers where the cars are in the race relative to the course. So it's West and Matt's job to read the race and do stunning pictures as they do, and it's my job and the team here's job to then add the information to that and also work with our commentators to make sure that they're explaining the race in its full, making it exciting, making sure the viewers at home can understand what's going on.
On the ground here we've got 8 fixed cameras on the track, we've got another 10 embedded cameras on the track, we've got multiple onboards on the cars, we've got 3 drones in the air. So we have up to 40 sources that the director can take on the track, and then we're sending up to 30 sources back to London from site. So what that means is we are tracking the cars in real time and adding a virtual representation of the track and the cars. So the audience can see a kind of dynamic cut between real action and virtual track overlay. So they can see where the track is going and where the drivers are going. So the combination of this layering of onboard cameras, track cameras, drones, sporting graphics and AR and VR just gives this sort of overall broadcast signature, which is really, I think, quite unique.
The technical challenges in joining this production together from so many different locations is really in the connectivity. Once we've got everything back into London, the connectivity to the graphics team in the Netherlands or the graphics team in Spain is relatively straightforward. The biggest challenge was actually the remote connectivity to the location facilities, which could be anywhere on the planet, not necessarily where there's good internet connection or good fibre. So the team put together a satellite solution, which meant we could operate practically anywhere in the world. So once we're back into the centralised location here in London, the workflow is fairly traditional. We have the normal setup of replays, acquisition, edits to make the programming. The workflow really is dictated by the amount of connectivity we have to site now. So we can bring back about 30 feeds over the satellites concurrently, land them in Gray's Inn Road, and then make a program much as we would a traditional motorsport event.
One of the biggest challenges with doing this event is that we're going to places where no one's ever been before to race. There's no blueprint for how this should be done, so we're trying to work it out on the fly with the kit we built before we even went to see any of these venues. This means when we go to Saudi, there was those huge rocks, which meant quite an RF challenge. In Senegal, it was a very different logistical challenge trying to get things everywhere. The whole of the TV compound is based on tents. So we have one master control tent with all the kit, which we air condition, and then we have a small production gallery, a sound area, and then some workshops for the drones and the RF engineers. To facilitate the small production areas we have on site, we have a small vision mixer and a Carrack sound desk, an IP router, and an ASI switching system. Linking the comms back from either the desert or Senegal or wherever we've been back to London is done over the Telex Arvon system. From the London side of things, we use the Unity intercom to connect to this Spanish graphics team, and then we have an IP-based MADI system that goes over to Hilversum for our Dutch AR colleagues. Nearly the entire system and all the cameras come back via RF on site. We have 20 cameras, 8 of them operated. We also have 9 cars fully fitted out with 4 onboard cameras. We also have 3 drones flying overhead. All of these come back through a 4-node RF receive system back to the TV compound, where we have a small production gallery, we have a sound area, a small graphics area, and then some workshops. From here, we produce a race cut with full sound, which we then send back over the 2 flypack uplinks that we have. These then go back, along with 11 other feeds, back to London.
So once we're back into the centralised location here in London, the workflow is fairly traditional. We have the normal setup of replays, acquisition, edits to make the programming. The workflow really is dictated by the amount of connectivity we have to site now. So we can bring back about 30 feeds over the satellites concurrently, land them in Gray's Inn Road, and then make a program much as we would a traditional motorsport event.
Yeah, I think our vision for the brand was Blue Planet meets Dakar on speed. So this is a short form sport, and I think what's been great about working with Aurora and NEP and Alcamel is we got this relationship where we have a massive vision, but it's no sense of having vision unless you can actually execute against the vision. And I think what the tripartite relationships allowed us to do is to really push beyond, and you can see the augmented reality. You can see what we're trying to do to distill this product and make it very futuristic. And in many ways, I think it looks more like an e-sport than it does a traditional motorsport, and that was the vision. So, people look at it and they go, "Wow, that's cool, that's amazing." But ultimately, what it's about is unpacking it, simplifying it, and broadening the appeal of the sport to a mass audience. So more females and more younger people that can get involved in our sport. And when you look at a sport for purpose, it's hugely important that we're a broad church. We invite people in and we give them knockout content, which is, you're on your edge of your seat from the start to the finish of the race. And, I don't think we're there yet, but I think we're well on the way. And I'm really, really excited about the innovation race on race. It's amazing.
I think I've been in the industry for 30 years. It's all I've ever done, make sports television programs. And I've worked in 80 countries. And now I think I have a responsibility to work in a few less. And I mean that we all have a responsibility to decarbonize and make our programs in a different way. We have to think about remote production, and this is probably one of the most extreme and best examples of how to produce without taking 100 people or more on site. And I think this will be the model for outside broadcast for years to come. There is only one reason for us being here, and that is to tell the story of Senegal and what's happening here with plastic, with climate change, with the need to decarbonize, with the need to take care of our ecosystems. And that's going to be the same, around the world. And in the 30 years I've traveled, I've seen the planet heat up, I've seen sea levels rise, I've seen people move from place to place because of the heat. So we have to try and do our bit to try and arrest those changes.